Welcome to the Quantum AI Coach podcast. I'm Gina, founder of Virtual World Coaching Academy.
When you find yourself, checking Slack at 11 p.m., watching that little cursor blink in a darkened room, or feeling like you are constantly trying to outwork a fundamental lack of infrastructure in your business, it is because you haven't yet qualified your decision-free zones. You are essentially like trying to muscle your way through a structural deficit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we really need to establish an incredibly direct diagnosis right out of the gate here.
Right.
Founder burnout is rarely caused by a lack of hustle, or a lack of desire, for that matter. We have to dismantle that myth immediately.
Yeah, that's such a pervasive myth.
It really is. Burnout is the direct, unavoidable result of trying to solve architectural problems with physical effort. You are trying to use your own body, your own cognitive bandwidth, and your own limited time as the load-bearing walls of your company.
Which is an incredibly fragile way to build anything. I mean, bodies break down. So that is our mission for today's deep dive. We are exploring the concept of architecture over effort.
A vital topic.
Definitely. We are going to directly challenge that deeply ingrained instinct you have to just work harder when things get tough. And we really want to guide you away from this exhausting reality of effort-based income toward the much more sustainable reality of infrastructure-based wealth.
It is a profound shift in operations. I mean, we are all conditioned to believe that if a business system is failing, we just aren't pedaling the bicycle fast enough.
Yeah, just pedal harder.
Right. But if the chain has fallen off, your pedaling isn't generating momentum. It is just generating friction, heat, and eventual breakdown.
Okay, let's unpack this, because we need to look at why we fall into this trap. The notes we've gathered discuss a concept called performative discipline. It's this insidious idea that entrepreneurs hold, which says sending just one more email or, staying awake just one more hour is somehow going to force a breakthrough.
Yes, and performative discipline is essentially a symptom of a much deeper underlying condition. Well, it happens when you can't clearly see the root causes of the friction in your daily operations. You don't know why growth is stalled, so you revert to the only lever you actually know how to pull, which is pushing harder.
You just default to the grind.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You put on a performance of intense hard work to appease your own anxiety. But no matter how hard you push in a flawed system, you inevitably hit a ceiling. Your work ethic simply isn't the variable that needs adjusting.
I hear you, but honestly, I struggle with this concept a bit, and I think a lot of people do. We are absolutely bombarded with this cultural myth of the grind.
Everywhere you look.
Right. Since day one, we've been taught that if you aren't bleeding for your startup, you don't deserve the payout. Working hard is the fundamental equation we've all been taught for generating wealth. So it's hard to just turn that off and say, I'm going to rely on architecture now.
It is a really difficult unlearning process. And to be clear, it's not that effort is inherently bad. The issue is that effort, in the specific context of scaling a business, is actually a low-frequency substitute for architecture.
Low frequency?
Yes. It actually stems from a place of internal inflexibility. You're holding on to a subconscious belief that wealth requires struggle, that success must be painful to be valid. If you are constantly trying to analyze why your team isn't performing through the lens of effort, you will only find confirmation of your worst suspicions.
You just end up thinking everyone is lazy.
Exactly. You will just conclude that nobody works as hard as you do, which traps you right in the center of every single process.
Hold on, because I can hear some of our highly analytical listeners kind of tuning out at the term low frequency.
Fair enough?
Yeah, we were just talking about Slack and emails, and now we are talking about frequency. So keep us grounded here. How does this shift from standard business metrics to these more metaphysical concepts?
That is a crucial bridge to build. We do need to move past staring exclusively at KPIs, logic-gated systems, and traditional corporate vernacular.
Yeah.
When we say energy frequency or discuss the unified field of consciousness in a business context, we aren't talking about magic crystals.
Good to know.
We are talking about your nervous system safety, your baseline level of reactive stress.
So frequency is essentially a biological state.
Exactly. If your internal frequency is constantly locked in a fight-or-flight state, your decision-making actually narrows. You literally cannot perceive long-term strategic opportunities because your brain is biologically obsessing over short-term survival.
Wow.
Your business is merely a reflection of what your nervous system feels safe holding. If your internal state is wired for survival and struggle, your external business will manifest bottlenecks that require you to struggle and survive. You are recreating your internal frequency in your external architecture.
That is actually a terrifying thought.
It can be confronting, yes.
I mean, it means every time I'm complaining about a bottleneck in my business, I'm essentially just looking in a mirror at my own stress levels. So if our nervous system is secretly pulling the strings, what does it look like when it hits the panic button? Because I imagine it doesn't look like an actual panic attack. It probably disguises itself as bad luck or, I don't know, logistical nightmares.
That is exactly how it manifests.
Yeah.
And there's a brilliant illustration of this in the sources, specifically Lisa Bloom's story of Who and the identity shift framework.
Oh, right.
It perfectly captures the clash between what our conscious mind thinks we want and what our nervous system is actually prepared to handle.
Yeah, the story about the founder who booked the London photo shoot. Let's detail the scenario because it is just so relatable.
Please do.
So this founder booked a high-visibility, power pose kind of branding shoot in London, and consciously, she was thrilled. It felt expansive, like a major step forward into a bigger, more visible arena for her company. She had fully said yes to the visibility.
But the night before she was due to travel, her subconscious powerfully intervened.
Right, she had a dream. And in this incredibly vivid dream, every single train from her town to London was canceled.
Every single one.
Yeah. She looked at her phone in the dream, and the transit app screen just went completely dark. There were no routes. There were no options to get there.
It is a striking manifestation of internal resistance playing out as a logistical failure.
It makes me think of a hardware analogy. You know, it is like trying to run the absolute latest, most advanced, resource-heavy software on a 10-year-old computer.
Well, that's a great way to put it.
The user wants the new features, they eagerly click install, but the hardware just panics. The fans start spinning out of control, the motherboard overheats, the screen freezes, and the whole system just forcibly shuts down to protect itself from frying. The container simply isn't built for the upgrade.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, that is precisely what is happening biologically to a founder in transition. The source material uses this to contrast two different internal identities, the old me and the architect.
How does the old me react to that dream?
The old me would wake up, feel the lingering anxiety of those canceled trains, and interpret it as a mystical warning sign from the universe to stay small. The old me would rationalize the fear, saying, maybe I should wait, the logistics are too hard, maybe I don't need to push myself so hard right now. This is a sign it's not meant to be.
Right, taking the easy way out. But the architect processes that exact same data differently.
Completely differently. The architect wakes up and realizes that the dream isn't a warning to stop. It is a very practical, biological reflection of their nervous system hitting its capacity limit.
Wow.
The internal infrastructure was redlining. It was maxed out on how much visibility and pressure it felt safe holding.
So the dream was just the fan spinning out of control on the 10-year-old computer.
Exactly. And the profound realization here is that until you actively build a mental and physical container that can effortlessly handle the London version of your business, the universe, or the unified field of consciousness, if you prefer, will continue to cancel the trains.
Meaning you'll just self-sabotage.
You will continuously encounter mysterious roadblocks, dropped contracts, sudden teen crises, or, illnesses that conveniently prevent you from reaching that next level of visibility.
It's wild.
Because your nervous system is pulling the emergency brake to keep you safe. You have to move from the frantic effort of trying to go to the calm architecture of being the person for whom that trip is a complete non-event.
So if the problem is the container, if we are shutting down our own progress because our daily operational systems can't handle the frequency of the new reality, how do we actually build a better container? I mean, I want to move away from the philosophy and talk about the actual mechanics.
Then we need to look at the practical framework provided in the sources. This is the 2026 blueprint for achieving 15,000-pound months.
Oh, okay, let's get into it.
The core pivot of this blueprint is moving from the exhausting daily job of managing a team to the incredibly powerful position of directing an architecture.
Here's where it gets really interesting. And the mechanism for doing that is creating what the blueprint calls decision-free zones. Let's actually workshop this rather than just listing the theory. Say you run a growing consultancy. What does a decision-free zone actually look like, and how do we determine what belongs in it?
To determine what belongs in a decision-free zone, you must run your daily tasks through 3 strict filtering questions.
Okay, 3 questions.
The first question, is it procedural? Meaning, does it follow a strict if this, then that logic?
Okay, so let's take client onboarding. A new client signs a contract. Does sending the welcome packet, the invoice, and the intake questionnaire require nuance? No. It is a predictable flowchart. If the contract is signed, then send the packet. It is entirely binary. So that passes question 1.
Precisely. Question 2, is it high frequency? Does this task happen daily or weekly? We aren't talking about a once-a-year strategy pivot here. We are talking about the relentless drumbeat of daily operations.
Client onboarding hopefully happens frequently, but even smaller things like handling common customer service inquiries or routing emails to the right department, these happen dozens of times a week. Every single time you make a routine decision on those, you are burning cognitive fuel.
Which brings us to the third and perhaps most vital question. Is it low genius? Does this task require your specific, unique creative soul to execute?
Right, because manually approving a $15 software expense at 2 a.m. is definitely the pinnacle of human genius, let's be honest. Most of the things founders spend their days managing, scheduling, chasing payments, updating spreadsheets, do not require their creative soul.
So if a task hits all 3 criteria, it is procedural, it is high frequency, and it is low genius, it belongs in a decision-free zone. The rule is, it is yours to automate and not yours to manage.
Yours to automate, not yours to manage. I want to pause on the mechanics of that, because the sources call this the Ghost Founder Protocol, which sounds cool, but how do you actually bake logic into the digital walls of a company? What does the first day of being a ghost founder actually look like?
It looks like aggressively transferring your standards into code. You are intentionally designing a business entity that generates wealth without needing a single check-in from you.
Ah, I see.
You utilize AI, Zapier integrations, or highly specific standard operating procedures. When the client signs the contract, the payment gateway automatically triggers the intake email sequence, which automatically generates a client folder in your drive, which automatically pings your delivery team. You become a ghost in that specific daily machine.
But letting go of that control is terrifying for most founders. I mean, there is an anxiety that comes with not checking the inbox to make sure the email actually went out.
There is, initially.
Yeah.
But the shift happens when you realize you are no longer the engine. You are the mechanic observing the engine. You monitor the outputs of the architecture rather than manually cranking the gears.
Let's dig into why this fundamentally changes our biology. Why does becoming a ghost founder reduce burnout beyond just saving us 3 hours a day on admin work?
This is where the physical reality and the neuroscience intersect beautifully. To understand what is happening to your body when you build these systems, we can look at the placebo effect as a mental model.
Wait, placebo implies something is fake but works anyway because of belief. But business systems like Zapier or AI are real interventions. How does that analogy hold up?
It's akin to the placebo effect, but with a crucial difference. The medicine here is real. Think about the biological mechanism of a placebo. Your mind perceives that a protective intervention has taken place. You took a pill, so it signals safety to the body.
Right.
The body responds by dropping its defensive stress and initiating healing. Just like a placebo, signals your brain to stop fighting because help has arrived. Knowing your automated systems are running signals your nervous system that the perimeter is secure. You drop your defenses, but in this case, the armor protecting you is actually made of code.
That makes perfect sense. You know the lead generation is running without you, so your nervous system receives a massive biological signal of safety. It realizes it no longer has to be on high alert, guarding every single doorway of your business. It can finally power down the alarm system.
And the sources back this up with clinical science, specifically Dr. Herbert Benson's research on what he coined the relaxation response.
Yes, his studies on how the brain reacts to predictable structure.
Exactly. When the human brain perceives a reliable, predictable structure in its environment, it stops scanning for threats. Cortisol levels, that toxic stress hormone that keeps you in a state of frantic effort, visibly drop.
And when cortisol drops, the blood literally flows differently in the brain. The fight or flight response physically narrows your peripheral vision, both literally and metaphorically. When you aren't stuck in that primitive part of your brain, you can actually access the visionary strategic areas. Your creative higher brain function dramatically increases.
You shift from a state of hypervigilance to a state of flow.
So, what does this all mean? It means building systems isn't just a clever time management hack. It is a literal biological upgrade to your capacity to receive. You are fundamentally migrating your entire existence from a survival architecture where everything depends on your daily sweat to a sovereign architecture where your systems hold the weight so your mind can expand.
And if we bring this all the way back to the beginning, your business is a reflection of what your nervous system feels safe holding. By building the architecture, you trigger the relaxation response, which creates the biological safety required to hold a larger volume of wealth and visibility without self-sabotaging.
The container is finally big enough for the upgrade. The computer isn't going to crash. We've covered an immense amount of ground today. Let's recap the 3 core takeaways we've synthesized from these sources to help you make the shift from being the engine of your business to being its architect.
Step 1 is simply to flag the issue.
Right. You have to take a hard, honest look at your day and recognize where you are using sheer effort to patch over a missing structure. Where is the performative discipline hiding? Are you answering emails at midnight just to clear the inbox so you feel productive?
Step 2 is the reframe. You must internalize the fact that your nervous system physically needs a secure, predictable container to feel safe holding 7-figure wealth. If you don't build the container, your subconscious will cancel the trains to protect you from the overload.
And step 3 is practice. Don't try to automate your entire company by Friday.
No, definitely not.
Identify just one potential decision-free zone in your business this week. Run it through the 3 questions. Is it procedural? Is it high frequency? Is it low genius? If it hits all 3, gate it with logic. Give it to an AI, build the integration, and let it run. Let yourself be a ghost in that one process.
But we must also issue a very real warning here. Failure to build this architecture is not a neutral act. It has severe repercussions. If you continue to stubbornly rely on your own physical effort to hold your business together, you will inevitably reach a state of what the sources call systemic fatigue.
Systemic fatigue.
It is the point where the business you built to give you freedom begins to feel like a suffocating burden rather than a blessing. The joy of creation is completely eclipsed by the relentless maintenance.
And here is a final provocative thought I want to leave you with, something to mull over as you look at your own operations. The wealth, the visibility, the impact you are trying to create, it's already out there. It is looking for a place to land. What if your biggest bottleneck isn't the algorithm or the market or your competitors? What if your biggest bottleneck is simply your own biological capacity to receive it?
A vital question to ask yourself.
So tonight, when the clock strikes 11 and that familiar urge to check Slack creeps in, don't push through it. Stop, step back, and ask yourself, what structure am I missing that is forcing me to be awake right now? Remember, the universe is listening to the frequency of your structure, not your struggle.
Now, if you've realized today that you are still trying to outwork a lack of container, there's a number of things you can do. First, you must identify where your burden is actually a boundary that has not yet been codified. I invite you to take the coherence assessment using the Burden to Boundary Coach gem. This is the ammunition you need to change your thinking and make sense of your business from a values-based perspective. You will find the link in the description below. If this conversation has provided the reframe you needed today, ensure you like and subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell notification to ensure you are alerted when we release the next blueprint for your invisible empire. Because remember, feelings are how we communicate with the unified field of consciousness. Do not allow your mission to be hijacked by a lack of architecture. The universe is listening.
So when Gina offered me the opportunity to do this, I jumped for it because I think anything that you can do that is going to chip away at these limiting the beliefs of things that hold you back is really, really worth doing. So it's been a really lovely experience, and if anybody's a bit worried about it, just do it, because the opportunity to connect through havening is really, really powerful. It's really, really powerful.
But really helpful, I think, in terms of having that kind of guided process just to kind of let the ideas and the feelings and the images flow, and then try and work out what it actually means afterwards, and to come up with, and it made intuitive sense. It's really, really helpful to then kind of have that debrief of, okay, what can we actually do with this stuff? Because that's where we tend to get stuck, is kind of like coming out of it going, oh, this is all some really interesting ideas and thoughts and feelings and images. But yeah, then, you know, how can we actually harness them to do something different? And I think that's been really, really helpful in terms of clarifying really what I need to prioritize to go forward in a way that will deal with some of that stuff that came up.
I would like to point out that I'm actually a therapist myself, and sometimes therapists also need a therapist. So I was really stuck, and then one day a friend posted a link for Gina's wealth and money attracting short course, and I went, this sounds great, I'm just gonna book it. And I loved it so much. I really had an epiphany on that course, and it was only meant to be a demonstration, and yet it was really it just opened up possibilities that I was stuck before, and now like, ooh, I can use this to unstuck myself. I'm a great believer that when the student is ready, the teacher appears, and you appeared at the right time. That's all there is to it. So, if anybody is watching this video, it means Gina has appeared in your life. So please give it a try.
She walks where the sky meets the sea, a calm in the chaos, wild and free. The light wraps around her soul. She's ready